Oh, whoa, whoa.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hi.
Very good.
Hello. Hello, Keith. How are you doing? You muted.
I'm very good. And yourself?
Very well, Keith. Very well. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hi, Keith. Long time.
Yes. I'm looking forward to the session. I'm a huge fan of PRIORAT. I have lots of questions.
All right, guys. Just gonna wait a while, getting people to join.
Good to see the Keith after a long time, huh?
Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good.
It's morning here. I wish it was evening and then I could be having a nice glass of PRIORAT, but it's morning, so I'm having coffee.
Cup of coffee. Good to go. For Diego and Albert. Bonsoir. Good evening.
Thanks.
Hello.
Namaste. Namaste. Nice to meet you.
Namaste.
Nice
Very
to meet
nice
you.
to see you guys, huh?
Thanks. We are really glad about it, and really honorable to do it. And
Yes.
really thanks. Many thanks.
We were looking forward to have this session, and that's eventually just made it. And very good.
Yeah, we were actually looking forward to it as well. I think it's very nice to explain PRIORAT all around the world, especially
Correct.
to you guys that
Yes.
I know we have some PRIORAT lovers here, so that's
Mhm.
a good thing, right? So
Good.
well, let's see, because maybe you know more about PRIORAT than we do. So
The inquisitiveness is a lot because of the region and the more and more to have a knowledge, especially from the guys like you who could talk about a lot.
yeah,
Good to see Chrissy again. Yeah,
yes, you can see Griti.
yeah.
Ravi sir, last time we greeted each other as bonjour. Today is going to
Bonjour.
be hola.
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 Oh, that's good. Yes. Yeah. But
Habla,
even it
habla
is,
español un poco.
oh, a
Muy
little bit of
bien.
Spanish, yeah, because that's the corner region. Exactly. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Now, my niece is there in Madrid at present learning the Spanish over there.
In Madrid.
Yes.
It's beautiful there as well.
Oh, yes. Today, today itself, since afternoon, it's a little warm. Otherwise, early morning was very foggy. Right, Chrissy? It was foggy and it was
Absolutely. Yes.
mild, warm weather in the afternoon,
Yeah.
bright sun. That's what exactly was. And very good to go for it, especially people who are having in a weekend today to have a very nice al fresco style eating with a nice glass of wine. Good to go out. And
It's-
tomorrow is very nice to go for Valentine's Day. And that's what exactly people will love to have in a brunch outside.
Well, tomorrow we have an election day here in Catalonia, so it's going to be a little bit strange. It's
Oh,
like
yes.
St. Valentine's plus election day
Hmm.
and the pandemic, so it's going to be pretty strange.
Yeah.
So
Still, the Europe, Spain, UK, and all the places, even in France also, because of the lockdown, the things are not yet open. So
yeah,
it's a bit,
it's
yeah, a
actually
little struggling. Yes.
actually we are actually closed in the region of Priorat. We cannot get out.
Oh,
So, well, maybe that's a good thing if you talk about wines, because we can, well, drive to whatever village and drink
yes,
wine with no one else, which
yes.
is strange actually here in Priorat. But
Mhm.
well, let's hope it's well, it's gone
Yeah.
very soon, because it's crazy. I guess there in India and all around the world it's just the same, but please let it end now.
Things are very struggling in the different parts of the country, because very elaborative country. So this is what is happening around, and we being in the capital of the country, so definitely stringent laws, and the government also feels it very difficult
Sure,
that they have to manage it. But other
sure.
states, yes, the things are getting slowly open. People are moving around, and same is happening with the domestic flying to one state to another one is opened up again
Oh,
with the little higher number of a capacity of the aircraft. So we look forward that Europe also open and people start traveling to the country India. And Indians are very inquisitive to go in different parts of the world. So they will also get opportunity to go again here and there. So this is what is we are looking forward for it. The whole
well,
industry. Yes.
we'll see. We'll
Okay.
see how Europe faces
Yes.
it, because it depends all on the vaccination and all this stuff.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
Okay. All right, guys. I think we've got about 30 people who've already joined and more on the way. So we will not let anybody wait any further. This is being beamed live currently on Facebook as well. So welcome everyone to this series of many webinars as we do for the educational purpose from our side. That is the Great Expectations. We are a WSET program provider. Um, and I would, I'm sorry, just give me a second. I'm just having a little bit of an issue here. Oops. Give me a second, please. Yep. Right. So we are a WSET program provider, and we have already done a webinar on Champagne and a webinar on Chablis, which was a great success. And we targeted it for 60 minutes, but it ran for almost 120 minutes because of so many questions and so many involvement. Yeah, and it just went on and on. So it was a great experience, and that's why I now thought after that, let's move out from France and let's go down to Spain. And especially one of my favorite regions, of course, is PRIORAT. And that's where we got in touch with Albert and Diego, who are sitting currently in PRIORAT. The reason I chose PRIORAT because it has such rich history. It has a very interesting history, as a matter of fact. More of that would be explained by Albert and Diego as we go along in this session. But I'm just going to give a little bit of brief as to why this region is so special. PRIORAT has always been known for producing wines because of the rugged nature of this place, the unforgiving land that it is, very unfertile, which suits the kind of wines that are produced here. And since it's such unfertile and a rugged and unforgiving land, the wines again reflect the same, and the quality and the yield of grapes that are produced in this area in this region are quite low, and that's why you get that concentration of flavors that PRIORAT is really famous for. History, very interesting. When phylloxera hit in late 1890s, late 1800s, the entire region of PRIORAT evacuated over a period of time, because the economy of this region depended on wines, depended on production of wines. And since there was no production of wines, everybody up and left. And for over 50-60 years, this land did not see anybody coming in, did not have any production. So it was sort of abandoned for almost half a century. Then there were a group of 4 friends, which I'll let Diego and Albert talk a little more about. They, in late 70s and 80s, came to this region, discovered the wines were still producing Grenache grapes. And then, because all of them had viticultural background, they started producing wines, and slowly and steadily, this region came back to life. So much so that in Spain, there are only 2 DOCA regions. One of them is Rioja, and the other one is PRIORAT. And PRIORAT has only come to the scene in the last 30-35 years. And you can imagine the quality of wines that it produces to come out and be a DOCA in such a short while. So that's why it's so remarkable and so interesting. This region is it's a perfect example of a region coming back to life after the Renaissance came back, the golden years of the 1980s and 1990s, and the investment started pulling into the entire area, and then it is now one of the best wine producing regions in the world. So that's why the interesting history and the lovely wines of the region told me, let's go to PRIORAT and explore these wines. So today we have these 2 gentlemen here. I will not blabber away so much now. I will pass the baton on to my co-host, Kriti, the lovely Kriti Malhotra. Kriti, all yours. Please go ahead.
Perfect. Excellent. Actually, Kunal, you said it all. Avi, now I have nothing else to say but to just compliment and talk about these people. However, I've actually made one line, and I'm going to introduce these gentlemen like that. So I'm going to say, let me introduce you to Diego and Albert from the land of, or should I say, from the soil of the dynamic. Please correct my pronunciation. Licoreia. Is that how it goes?
Licoreia.
So generally, we would introduce people saying that from the land of this, that. I thought that this is not the land, this is the soil of Licoreia. So that's Albert and our lovely friend Diego. These gentlemen are going to actually take us through PRIORAT. And another thing I want to tell is that they are how in our wine industry we call OGs. For all the people who don't know who OGs are, they are original gangsters. So we've got the original gangsters in the house. Last time we did, for all the people who attended this as a second session, last time we had finesseful Chablis. Before that we had champagne. That was all too finesseful. This time these wines that they're going to talk about are not for faint hearts. They're full-bodied, volatile, robust, paso doble style dance wines, and we're super excited, hoping that somehow if some technology has come, and you're going to make sure that we can taste the wines as well. All to you now.
Okay. Right. So thank you, Kriti, and thank you, Kunal. It's been an amazing introduction, actually. We are very pleased to show you a little bit more about PRIORAT and to let you know something about this region. The first thing I have to say,
I don't know, Kunal, if you want to share the presentation. So we're going to speak in already.
I will. Yeah, I will now. I will now share the presentation. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So the thing that the first thing I want to say is that this is a very, very small region in terms of inhabitants. We will talk about it a little bit more, but you have to understand that just in this region called Priorat, we have 2 designation of origin, but only 10,000 inhabitants.
Yeah.
So it's crazy if you think about it. It's, well, a small village, but for 2 designation of origin and a lot of wineries. We will talk about it all.
But then I would just like to say one thing. You may, like you say, you may be a small region, right? Like you said, but 50 years, 1970 to now, the second DOCA in the country. Well, small region, but definitely the region. I mean,
but if you go in the Rioja, for example, and started to asking about PRIORAT for the person that work in the wine sector,
sure.
some one of them neither know it. So it's the second DOC in all Spain, but a lot of people in wine sector actually nowadays it's still unknown. It's still unknown how.
Yes, it's interesting as well, because when you compare Priorat to Rioja, it's amazing, because we have a very small production. You know about this. We have very few people living here, but we have a very small production, still a great quality production. But if you compare it to Rioja, it has nothing to compare, actually, because we talk about Rioja and there are some wineries there that produce even double or 3 times the whole production of all the region, the 2 designation of origin. So you have to understand this is a region where we find mainly very small wineries. Okay.
Yes.
So some of them, they don't even get to 2,000 bottles a year.
Family issues. There's a very a lot of family issue here. There's a 10%, 50% or bigger wineries, but the column of this region is concerning family issue and family wineries. We're speaking now a little bit about these numbers, before introducing to environments, climates, history, and the others. Albert say 10,000 inhabitants, 24 villages. Okay, only 24 villages in both destination of origin, Monsan and Priorat. More or less 400 person in each village. Imagine the population, and about 170 wineries in both denomination of origin Monsan and designation of origin Priorat. Kunal, if you want to go in with the slide about okay, well, this is a little bit about our presentation, but we're going straight.
This is us.
What we are what we are doing. You can see now.
We do like the photograph. The photograph is quite good looking, I must say.
Well, thank you so much. Can we go
to the slide concerning? Okay, so we make a little introduction, and
we will talk about a little bit of everything. So we will make a small introduction. Very important, this geological formation of the area. This leads to climate, environment, and especially soil. This Licorella Kitri introduced for us. So pretty important, this geological formation in the soil. Okay, then the wine history that Kunal introduced a little bit as well, and the Priorat today and the designation laws. So going forward,
the geological formation, Kunal, please, if you can.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Thank you. So
this
is where we are.
We are in a Mediterranean latitude, so we are really close to the sea. But how we can see, we are surrounded by few mountains. So it's a Mediterranean climate, Mediterranean area, but some influence of continental climate. So it's a really wide range of different climates that we can find here.
Yeah, so well, it's this northern part of Spain. We are all surrounded by regions, wine producing regions here in the area of Tarragona. It's about 80 miles, not even 80 miles south of Barcelona, so it's pretty close to Barcelona, but great producing area. So let's move to geological formation. We can move. Yeah, well,
this is a typical image of PRIORAT. So I would say this is the main mountain, Montsant, that surround the northern parts. And thanks to this mountain, we can find a different climate. We stay more or less about 700 meters.
Are we talking about? Sorry, if I could just ask in. Are we talking about Tarragona here?
Well, yeah, we are pretty close to Tarragona. It's just 35 kilometers away. But the thing is that, well, it's about 45 minutes by car. So it's a tricky road, actually. But you can see how different it is, the climate from Tarragona, which is in the coastline, or Barcelona, to Priorat, because we are all surrounded by mountains, which gives us a very special microclimate, even not just even one, but a lot of different microclimates. That is why we have quite a good variety of wines, all following the same line, you know, strong wines, as you said, full-bodied wines, but still pretty different depending on each village, and well, lots of things. So this is the main mountain, Montsant, which actually translates into Holy Mountain, okay? Because it's very important. We will talk about this when we talk about the history, okay? But this Montsant, you can see the shape. So you can see it's very like rounded shapes, like soft shape, right? Very round, very, I don't know, like wavy. This is because of its geological formation. So the thing about Montsant and Priorat, especially Priorat, is that if you can go to the next slide. Well, we have the Montsant here, some vineyards. We have the Llicorella that we talked about. It's actually
a typical image, you know, Priorat. There's a little bit of hills surrounded by the mountain, with some terrace and typical soil of Llicorella that we talk later.
Yeah, a soil of Llicorella. This is a slate, okay, in English. So this is the place. So going forward, this is the designate. Yeah.
So just want to if you look at the soil here, you know, it's very interesting to see what kind of soil this region is made up of. It's as I said, very unforgiving land. You know, it's not your usual place where you would grow your usual stuff. No, the only thing that's going to grow here are the grapes, and that is what makes this land so special. Actually, it is broken down slate. It's so unforgiving, this land, that even now in the 21st century, driving from Tarragona to Barcelona to Priorat, you still do not have roads which have been completely made. So you still have, you know, the ones, and even if you are in an SUV, your car moves like this. So, you know, it's such a rugged land, but it's because it's so rugged, it's so special, and because it's so rugged, it produces those excellent quality of wines, and that's the kind of soil. That's how, you know, the entire Priorat is just broken down slate for soil.
Yes.
Yeah, we would see. Yeah,
pretty interesting. So yeah, it's amazing because it's, well, you can see how these vineyards emerge from the rocks, right? From these rocks, and you cannot understand how they grow actually and how they produce. So it's pretty interesting. I think it's a very symbolic image, this one. It's going to Porrera, right, one of the main villages in the region. So moving forward to the formation and the next slide, you can see a little bit of the image of the region. So you can see this would be the region, okay. And we have these two designation of origin. The one in the center would be designation of origin qualified PRIORAT, and the one surrounding it, as if it were like, I always say, it's like a huge, gigantic fried egg. Okay, so you have the center, which would be PRIORAT, and the surrounding area, which would be Monsanto. Pretty interesting. The main difference between PRIORAT and Monsanto is the soil. So in PRIORAT we have over 95% of this licorella, of this slate. Different kind of slates. We will talk a little bit about them, but that's the difference. When you go to Monsanto, we have a mosaic of different soils. We have licorella as well, but we have sands, and we have clays, and we have limestone, we have chalk. So we have a very different soils.
I like to talk about these two denominations together, especially with the denomination of origin Monsanto, because for example, I'm from Italy, and the first day that I was here, that I starting to live in here, I have the idea, that the designation of origin Monsanto is the cheaper brother of the cheaper sister of the mainly known and mainly most famous designation of origin PRIORAT. But it's not true. It's different. It's sure that it share the same region, share the same latitude, share the same varieties, because we're talking about Grenache, we're talking about Carignan, but the mainly difference is the soil. And the soil is really, really important, because in the designation of origin Monsanto, I'll say, Albert, you can find a really, really different soil that coming from geological formation that now we see, clay, pebbles, sand. Then when we move into PRIORAT, it's all licorella. And you can find in this glass, finally, this difference. So absolutely. It's not, I like to always together, because it's a good comparison to do when we talk about PRIORAT.
Yeah, so here you have some key issues, the villages, the 24 villages in both designation of origin. So the whole region, only 10,000 inhabitants, which is crazy, because we are pretty close to the coastline, which is mainly inhabited here in all Spain, but here in Catalonia, it's quite inhabited. And then just 30-45 minutes away from this coastline, you have this very small region, talking about inhabitants, right? Then we have these 165 wineries, more or less. It's always changing, you know how it is.
Imagine that we have some villages that have 300 inhabitants and 25 wineries. Okay, so okay,
and even more.
This is the statistic.
Yes. Then we have this 2,500 hectares for the Monsanto designation of origin, and 2,000 for PRIORAT. And well, mainly 80% of these hectares are occupied by red grape varieties, mainly Garnacha and Carignana, red Grenache and Carignan, which are the typical varieties here. So moving forward
to geological formation,
yes.
we will see very quickly
yeah, well, a little bit Monsanto. Actually, Monsanto is the youngest designation of origin in all Catalonia. We have about 11, I think, designation of origin in Catalonia. So this area, this region of where Barcelona is, but mainly they are all pretty close to PRIORAT and Monsanto. So this southern part, the one close to Tarragona, it's been I think it's their 7-8 designation of origin in this southern Catalonia. And then PRIORAT was founded in 1924, but was not official up until 1954. And then in 2000, thanks to this revolution that Kunal said, we have
they recognize as
they achieved this qualification. Yes. Okay, so if we move to the next slide. Okay. Yes, so yeah, mainly this is the geological formation, we have this slate, this as I told you, this fried egg. Okay, so the yellow part, the orange part, would be formed by this slate, which we have slates from even 460 million years ago that, well, they just changed. But what is this slate? What are these licorella? This is, well, mainly compressed clays.
Compressed
so mainly
sand,
compressed red clay, compressed even different clays, and compressed sand. So it's mainly rock, which is pretty amazing. We will talk about it a little bit more, because the main thing here is that we cannot find organic matter in this slate.
Yes.
So it's amazing. It's amazing. Then we have different soils, such as this red sandstone. Okay, that you can see here in this mountain. This is pretty close to Siurana. If you
Sorry, just to interrupt you guys.
Yes, sure.
It's such soils like these, because they are unfertile. Kriti, would you be able to just explain to our audience why this soil, which looks so rugged, why is it so important for the production of?
Yes. Okay. So we have to move to the next next
Okay, all
slide.
right.
We have a focus on Licorella soil. Yes. We have a focus on.
Shall I move on to the next one? Yeah.
Yes.
Sure,
the next one. Here we have clay and pebbles that are newest, and yeah, we have on the next one we have a focus about Licorella. Why this is so important.
Yeah, so mainly when we see pebbles, this is a typical soil in Monsan. As close as you get to this mountain of Monsan that we saw before, the more commonly you find these pebbles. Why is that? Because all this region was under the sea 300 million years ago. Okay, and there was like a formation of these well, we had a lot of sediments coming from the rivers that started layering one layer after another, and compressing, and then there was like a tectonic movement that made the mountain of Monsan a mountain, actually. But you can see this mountain is formed by layers and layers of compressed pebbles as well. So it's a sedimentary mountain. That is why as well it was forming under this sea. So this is why it's quite wavy, very like with round forms. Actually, just a small thing, not related to wine, but Gaudí, the architect, the modernist architect, very famous because he built Sagrada Familia and Pedrera and all these iconic buildings in Barcelona. He was actually from pretty close to Montsant, from a village pretty close to it, and he was inspired by this mountain when he was building La Pedrera and Sagrada Familia and all his so you can see these very wavy and very round and very strange buildings. So clay limestone, moving forward, clay and limestone, of course, and
to the Licorella.
So next,
just to add to what these gentlemen have said, and to what Kunal was referring to, if I could just add to one thing, I'm going to tell you in a very simple manner why, like Kunal used this word, and why both Diego and Albert are telling about unfertile soil, and then there are a lot of pebbles and rock. It's not like a nice looking soil that how it should be. And then like Kunal said, that why such soils are good, why would it be? I'm just going to say one thing. Just imagine yourself sitting on one chair. The food is coming to you, the water is coming to you every 2 hours. What's going to happen? You're just going to eat food, you're going to drink water, right? After 2 hours again, you're going to get food. You're not working out, you're not walking, there's nothing that's happening. So what's going to happen? You become fat, right? There is no physical exercise. That means you're not going to look nice, you're not going to be good looking, because we all work out for that. Putting on weight means a lot of health issues. That's exactly the way how we look for wines. If there is if the soil is very fertile, if there are a lot of minerals available in the soil for the wine, it will become very lumpy. You know, we as winemakers in wine world, we say that the lesser fertile, less minerals in the soil, the better. Then what happens? The roots or the wine, vine, the
Yes.
wine goes further inside the soil, goes towards the water. It makes its way to needing the required minerals or vitamins, if I can say so, or what it is required, in such a way that it gets what it needs to. That is how the wine becomes a better way how we enjoy the wines. Otherwise, the wine will
Yeah.
only be lumpy.
Yeah,
Please go
exactly.
on.
Yes. Yeah, we have a little bit resume about climate. So Mediterranean and continental is really, really hot, but how Kriti says, the other thing is the dry. So without water, the plant, in this case, the vineyard, is really, really, really difficult how to grow up, no? To grow up and make a good yield, no? The other characteristic is the temperature. We have a high contrast thermical between night and day, and this is another really, really important characteristic because it's a cause about slow ripening. Slow ripening, we have to imagine that we stay during summer in the middle of the ripening maturation between 35 38 degrees in the morning, and we arrive at night at 16 17 18. What happened? That the grape stop in the night the maturation and starting again the day after. So this start and repeat, start and repeat is really, really important for aromaticism, for the aromatic that gives to the grape. Is really, really important, because without this low ripening could be really, really difficult that arrive at the maturation with this hot, because it's really, really hot. But for the reason that I say, we have also a continental climate, and this continental climate balance this dry and the hot that we have here. Go forward, Kunal, with the next slide. And yes, so here we're talking about slate soil that is 95% of PRIORAT. And what happened with this? How Kriti was saying, water deficit. The plants don't have water, some don't have supply, no organic matter. This is another consequence. About this, there is a curious history to talk. When the four pioneers of PRIORAT starting this revolution in the late 80s, that after we see the history, the first time, in the first vintage, they keep this a little bit of this kind of grape to the laboratory to make the first analysis and lab analysis, and the employer of the lab repeat the control and repeat the exam four times because he can't believe it, that inside this soil there is no organic matter, and say to them, you are crazy to plant vineyard in this kind of soil. Are you sure you want to plant? Yeah, yes, because here we can make a big wine.
Well, yeah, actually the phrase was this is scientifically impossible. It's not possible that this grape comes from this place. So this was crazy back then, because people there used to plant grapes there and whatever.
That's
But
so
then
interesting.
If I could say one thing, gentlemen, Albert and Diego, when I look at this picture and I look at
the next, you can go to the next, Kunal, if you want. We have 3 photos that are really, really impressive.
Yeah. I mean, but actually the last picture with those big pebbles, the first wine region that comes in my mind is Rhone. You know, that's where these big pebbles is where it comes from. And I was about to say, when I introduced both of you, you know, like full body, robust, boisterous, high alcohol wines, there is some connection between, well, I like to think it like that, between Rhone and Priorat because of the soil. Like, look at this big boulders, and this makes the wine for all the people in the wine industry. If you look at such vineyards, you've got to have wine from here, because only for people who enjoy full-bodied wine. Kunal and myself definitely do that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
the other thing about low yields. Low
yes,
yields.
Absolutely.
that's so interesting, because I mean, if you talk to a layman, and that person would really be surprised that such quality wines can come from some place like this. I mean, if you show them the picture of the soil, because I have seen this soil in person, I've
Yeah.
felt it in my hand, and it is absolutely crazy how the wine producers can produce such amazing quality of wines coming from the soil, and which looks like that. But
Yeah,
that's the truth.
this is the magic of Priorat. When we talk about why Priorat is magic. But what mean magic? Magic means for me this: the energy that the plants put in the soil for survive, and from going deeper and deeper and deeper for find this some water that is at the deepest part of the soil. When he found clay on the other material that can keep it, this is the magic. This is, I think, the essential of the magic. When we say the Priorat is magic, but what mean magic? Magic would mean this: the energy that put plant in the soil for in order to survive and find this water. The other thing is the low yield. This is another consequence about that low yield. What mean the low yield? A plant around 20, 25 years old, so in the full life production, in another destination of origin, we make a Grenache from another destination of origin, can produce 3 kilos, 5 kilos, 4 kilos.
More, yeah.
Here, in a soil like Licorella, like slate, don't arrive up to 1 kilo or 700 grams. Imagine, for give you an example, for you can understand, there are some winemaker, some winery that for produce 1 bottle needs 3 plants.
Or even 4.
Okay,
Yeah,
so when we say why this is a consequence also to the price, why the price is higher.
Absolutely.
We have a marketing strategy, sure, but the reason is for this reason, because it's really difficult and really poor and really low quantity, you know.
Yeah, so the thing, maybe you find some Priorats that get to, when you buy them here, we can find some that even get to 1,000 euros a bottle, which is a lot, of course, but you cannot find very cheap Priorats. It is impossible, because well, I think the cheapest ones would be around 9, 10, 12 euros a bottle, which is not cheap, the cheapest wine you can find, and you have to buy it here. So that's the main thing. Why? Because we have these very low yields. The plants have to root a lot, and they focus mainly on rooting and going deeper and deeper, as Kitri said, as Diego said, because they have to find this water. The thing about this slate soil as well is that it is well, they have it filters a lot the water, so the water goes down and down and down, and you have to imagine this plant that has to actually
destroy the slate,
destroy this slate in order to get to the small places where the water is kept. So it's incredible how this happens, even in the driest years. The 2019 vintage, it was a very dry year. What happens when these vines don't find water? They start drinking from the grapes. So the grapes, they don't. It's really they grow smaller. Yeah. It makes no sense, and that is why we have a very small amount of water in
high sugar, high alcohol.
High sugar. That is why we have these great alcoholic volumes and very high minerality as well. When you smell a Priorat wine, you perceive this minerality. This is why. Okay.
Yes.
Are we
This-
looking
this
at,
soil
are
is
we
why.
looking at about 90% of Garnacha and just about what? About less than 15% of Carignana?
Could be,
If
yes.
I
Could,
pronounce it right.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Then we see.
So
Kunal,
is
could you
is
come
it
straight
mostly
forward with
because
the
of the
other?
blending? Is it used mostly for blending? Or do you find
The
100%?
typical PRIORAT is then finally we will see it about the blend. The typical PRIORAT is a blend.
Sure.
Then we see why. I will explain you about it. Don't worry.
So this is how the rock, you can see, this is actually taken from a vineyard in Torroja. So
The
this
next.
is quite...
Kunal, to the next, please. That is
To the next one.
Yes,
This one, or
from this vineyard.
Whoa.
This rock belongs to the
next.
following vineyard that you can
Wow.
see.
okay. This vineyard is called the guys that work this vineyard is called the
L'Infernal.
yeah
The
hell,
Infernal.
the hell.
The Infernal winery. Why? You can see this is like a
They call this vineyard the black ride, the black ski ride, because when you stay over, seem that you have to start a ski race, no? And they explain to us that for working this vineyard, so for the pruning and for the other activity that they need to do, they're using climbing materials, climbing rope for help. They sell.
yeah, you can
Only
see
the manual harvesting is possible inside. See, this is the reason why I say these are original gangsters. They are the real OGs. You know, I don't know why we use this terminology only for champagnes, but I want to use this. Like, look at this. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this is what is called as a vineyard, which would give you
Heroic viticulture is this. Because
yes.
when you need to use climbing rope for pruning for
everything.
for everything, for harvest is the reason. So this is another reason when you pay for a bottle of PRIORAT, you are not to pay only for the wine, but you are paying for the whole viticulture that stay behind the bottle.
yes,
Behind
it's
the
and
bottle.
it, working in these vineyards, of course, it's no mean task. I mean, you can see, I mean, you know, if you see on this slide here,
Yeah.
I would just want to take you down. I was looking at this down at the road. So
Yes,
the road is way down. I mean, it is some sort of building over there. I can't even actually see it properly.
yes.
So that's the road, and this is just, you know, on side of a hill. I mean, people who work here and the wines that they produce, and as both of them just said, generally in most vineyards you will have what maybe, you know, 3 liters coming out from, you know, the yield over here. It's less than a kg. So very, very low yields. That means the plant, which is, we call it the vine, vine, has to work extra hard. And as Kriti explained, due to the fact that it works so hard, it stays fitter, it produces better quality of grapes. The grapes are concentrated in their flavors, they're not diluted. So the product that you get from those concentrated grapes flavors and high alcohol, high sugar, is what produces these magical wines. And as I agree with Diego 100%, this is where the magic happens. The magic then transcends to the bottle, but this is where it actually happens.
Absolutely. Like they say that, and like they say, 70% of your wine is made in a vineyard, which is so true. I mean,
95. These guys, they will answer to you. 95% is in the vineyard, and 5% in the cellar, in the winery.
And they are pretty good winemakers. But the thing is that, well, actually they have pretty good wines, which is incredible wine tasting. You have to check it out, L'Infernal Winery, because they have pretty amazing wines.
But first of all, they are viticulture.
Yes,
they are. They are.
Kunal, we should do more events. We should do more sessions with viticulturists now.
That's what we'll do now.
Yeah, but we think this is the interesting part, because speaking seriously, with all technology that we have today, a good wine we can do everywhere. We can do everywhere with all technology that we have in the winery today. So the difficult things is to bring a good grape in the winery.
Yeah.
Good.
One time that the grape is in the winery, the wine will be made it. Okay. The difficult thing nowadays for the climate changing, for the reason that we sell, is to bring a good grape in the winery. This is the hard work, we think.
Yes. So, well, moving forward,
yes,
because we could ramble on for.
Yes, and gentlemen, we're getting a lot of questions in the chat also. So
Okay.
we'll be taking that as well.
Any problem?
Well, no tricky ones, I hope. So we can move forward. This is a Licorella. You can see how the vine plant grows from the soil. So this is amazing. And you can see how it's broke in the first layer, but it's solid rock, just less than a feet underneath. So you have to imagine it has to root through this rock, which is amazing. Moving forward.
Yes, going to the. Yes, going to the history. That is a interesting part. This is a little bit of resume. A really old tradition about wines here in PRIORAT, starting in the 12th century with the arrival of the Carthusian monks from Provence. No, going to the next Kunal, please. We started in 1963. We have an error here from the date. Sorry, we apologize.
Yeah, it's the right thing. It's 1163, which is when this Escalade monastery was founded. They arrived here a little bit before. You have to understand that. Well, you probably know that nearly all Spain was under the Moorish rule by then, okay, but the Christians were going from the northern part of Catalonia to the southern part. So from all this Catalonia region, the last village to fall under the Christian rule again was Siurana, which is pretty close to Escalade, which would be the center. The 0 kilometer of this Priorat region. Escalade, this is the monastery they founded in the 12th century, but this is where it all happened again. This is why the mountain is called Montsant, Holy Mountain, because the fights there were very harsh, and we have a lot of small churches all around the mountain. So it's amazing. This would be the monastery where the Vitis vinifera was brought back again to Priorat. You have to understand that here this region was pretty important during Roman times as well, and I think it's the wine history actually comes back even from before Romans, but it was brought back again by the monks in this case. So,
and I think it was the name Priorat comes from priory, which is this priory.
Exactly.
And I have been to this priory. It's really beautiful, but it's really rugged. I mean, getting there is it's not easy at all. I don't know whether it's not easy at all. It's difficult to find on Google Map as well. But once you get there, you realize that they have made this. Whenever they made this, I don't know the year and all, but whenever they made this, it must have been such a difficult task to cut that into that mountain, because it's right underneath a mountain. So, and that is where the name Priorat comes from that priory, because this, the people
the prior of the monastery was that the person that control, and they have all control of the area.
Exactly.
Like the owner of all the land.
They used to, everybody used to give them the grapes, and then they used to make the wine, and that was the economy of Priorat until phylloxera came.
Yes.
Kunal, could you just tell our audience again what do you mean by priory? I think few of us.
So the name Priory is, of course, a monastery. Another name for a monastery, which this is, which is the Escaladia monastery, and this is right in the center, the heart of Priorat. And earlier, back in the 1800s, when Priorat used to make wines, they used to give all the grapes. The growers used to give all the grapes to the priory, and it was the regional monastery of every region in Europe, which had the responsibility of making the local wine. So all the grapes used to go to them, and they used to make the wine and then sell it off to various places. And that's where the name Priorat comes from this priory. But all of this sort of stopped when phylloxera came to the region. And that is what we're going to discuss now, because that's part 2 of Priorat, actually.
Yes.
Sure.
And just to add to what Kunal has said, the wine used to be rationed. It's not that earlier you could just go and say that, can I pick up 6 bottles or 10 bottles? It was very, very much rationed, just the way how food was rationed.
Yes. You can move,
Yeah.
moving a little bit.
So this is the phylloxera. Actually, the just one thing, the phylloxera got into Priorat in 1893, which is quite late if you think about European phylloxera. But the thing is that just few years before, the monks from the monastery were forced to abandon the monastery. Why? Because they had increased the taxes to the people who actually worked in the lands, in the fields, and they wanted to get rid of them, as well as the same time as the state wanted to gain back some of the fields or everything, because they needed the money, they needed a lot of resources. So more or less about this, then 1893 the phylloxera gets to the first village of Priorat, which is Porrera, okay, and they started the first decline of Priorat. They stopped making wine. They didn't stop at all, but the production was reduced.
You can go to the next.
Yes.
Yes.
So the production was reduced, and instead they planted a little bit of nuts. So here we have hazelnut as well. They tried something different in order not to abandon the lands, but it was the first thing that drove them crazy.
For the reason, we have to imagine that in the area of Cartouche-Amont, the land of Priorat was more or less 30% more of the vine grape super hectares that we have nowadays.
Yes.
For the reason, because the farmers have to change the products, and the product that is requested at this moment was the hell nuts. So the land is starting to be covered of hell nuts. That's nowadays we can see a lot of hell nuts, and nowadays the hectares of vineyard are three times less and 3 times short, 3 times little than the Cartouche-Amont.
Yeah. So when the phylloxera was controlled again, we had a small time, actually small period, where cooperativism and modernism flourished, actually, with this, you can see this is the cooperative of Cornudella, okay? This is one of the so-called wine cathedrals of Catalonia, modernist buildings, not made or not designed by Gaudí, but by their students, a student called ostras, ¿cómo es de I don't remember the name, I'm sorry. When it comes to mine, I will tell it, but the thing is that 1920s, It was a great period. Again, they started making wine again, but then in 1936 the Spanish Civil War hit, and mainly some years after this civil war, a lot of people abandoned the region because it was very hard to find survive, to find food or whatever. So they got to the cities such as Tarragona or Reus, which are pretty close, even Barcelona. And a few years after that, we said that in 1954 the designation of origin was official again, but the wine was
bulk production. We have to imagine that it was only bulk production here.
So actually,
only by cooperative, and we can say without any problem was
no
really
bottling.
No bottling, and was famous for mega bad wine. So we arrive at, we can go to the next, Kunal,
to the next slide.
To the next slide, we arrive at the late 80s with the revolution of the five magnificent, or five pioneers, that the PRIORAT is known as a land that made bad wine, bulk and bad wine, and cheapest, really cheap.
The cheap, they eat with tannins.
Yes,
and
really tannin, really
very
strong,
difficult, very strong,
difficult to drink. Well, we arrived at this group of friends, this group of winemakers that every one of them have different experience in the other denomination, like Rioja, like France. Arriving in Gratallops, one of the villas that today form the PRIORAT, and starting this visionary project. I said it before, no, nobody believes in them, because the people here, the farmers, looks strange, how to have to do with these five guys, what they think, and how I say the employment of laboratory don't believe in this project, to plant vineyard in this kind of soil. And then what they do for arrive at what you asked me before, Kriti, they starting to introduce. Go to the next, please, Kunal. They starting to introduce new material, a new variety as Cabernet, Syrah, Merlot. Why? For make blend, okay, and make a little bit soft wines that could be easily to sell. No, this is one of the thing that they do. For the reason we arrive at nowadays, that a typical PRIORAT is a blend between the autochthon original variety as Garnacha and Carignan, and a good percentage about Cabernet, Syrah, and Merlot. We can find monovarietal, but the typical PRIORAT is a blend, because they introduce this variety for made softness wine, we can say. Another thing that they do very important for the economy and for the local people, for everybody, that today everybody appreciated, is a new grape price. They say, guys, if you want to live in this region and we want to live selling wines, for the reason that we said before, heroic viticulture, low yields, difficult to work with licoreia, in this, all what we talked about before, the price of the grape have to be another. We can sell the price at 4 cents, 40 cents, or 45, 50 cents, as other designation of origin do. Nowadays, the price of 1 kilo of grape here in the designation of origin Monsanto is about $1.10, and in PRIORAT can arrive at $1.92. That is a lot. They're really high for a kilo of grape, but for the reason that we said before, really difficult, heroic viticulture, and etc. But what are the consequence of this? That thanks to the new price, the farmers can survive with the agriculture and viticulture. And this is a policy that we defend nowadays every day, because we have to understand that if we starting to pay 45, 30, in some region of Italy, 20 cents a kilo for a grape kilos, the farmers, the familiar farmers, the familiar winemaker can survive with this price. Here in PRIORAT, with this price, the young people coming back restart a project, a familiar project that was abandoned, etc. For the reason, the price allow to survive with the viticulture, not only making wine, only keeping and growing the grape, the land, the vineyard, and sell the grape. A lot of people don't have winery, but have simply the land and grow up the grape and sell them. Another thing that they do is putting the PRIORAT at the level that everybody know nowadays. So at the international, what happened? How said Albert before? We arrive at 1989, 1919, that this land knows for made cheap and really, really bad wine. So it was really, really difficult convince the market, the local market, the Catalan market, to buy a bottle about $250 for a wine that till the day before they can buy for $2 1 liter. Okay, so we imagine the situation that really, really, you know.
At first, the people that worked with well, in wine commerce and well, when they brought the PRIORAT and they said the price, they laughed at their faces, because it was like, it's impossible. You cannot sell a PRIORAT wine at this price. It's impossible, because we have this PRIORAT price, and it's pretty close to nowadays. And actually, you can find a lot of people that come here and they want 5 liter. Go ahead.
And now, actually, if you talk about Spain, PRIORAT wines are one of the most priced wines coming out of Spain. I mean, unless it's a monster, I mean, you won't find a DOQ PRIORAT, which is, you know, it's going to be always on the higher end, isn't it?
Yes.
It is.
Actually, all the PRIORAT must be bottled, and all the and bottled inside the designation of origin, and it's well, it's quite pricey. And a lot of people here in Catalonia, they at first perceived Monsanto as the cheap PRIORAT, but now it's just it's a little bit cheaper. It's not cheap because it's still quite harsh producing in Monsanto, not as difficult as in PRIORAT, but still. People love it because it's a great relation between quality and price when we talk about Monsanto. Then PRIORAT, it's a little bit pricey, and this is why it's mainly for exportation. So 80-90% of the wine produced in PRIORAT is exported, okay, because people here, they prefer cheap wines.
No, yeah, for this reason, they start for sell this wine. They started to ask to international markets. So for this reason, the PRIORAT sell before outside Spain than Spain. No, then we arrived to Alvaro Palacio history that starting this project with L'Ermita. That is a vineyard that we have in this photo. This is L'Ermita of Alvaro Palacio. There is a vineyard that is cultivated and grow up in a natural way with the donkey and all these things. And the finally recognized internationally that the first recognized the Guy Parker, that in 1997 awarded 99 points for Clos Erasmus and Alvaro Palacio L'Ermita. And in this moment, the PRIORAT broke the binomio of Rioja and Ribera del Duero in Spain, and put himself in the international market, and then few years later also in the local market they're starting to sell wine.
So it's actually very amazing. I mean, just in a matter of 10 maybe 15 years, it just, you know, Ribera del Duero has been a wine region which has a you know, longer history, and probably even wines which have a cult following. But for PRIORAT to come all of a sudden like an underdog, and that's why I called it, you know, the unsung hero, as an underdog, and then just, you know, just force itself through and become a DOCA so quickly. It's just amazing. I mean, it just that's a proof of the kind of quality that this region produces, and the kind of tradition it has, a long tradition that it has had in winemaking. Because even for Rioja to be a DOCA, it took almost, I think, 50 years or maybe 60 years, because I think it was recognized. Rioja was recognized as a DO in 1930s, and it only got a DOCA in 1990s. So it took almost 60 years to become a DOCA, which is the best level of wines in Spain. And PRIORAT managed to do the same work in less than 15 years. So that's remarkable, how it has happened.
Yeah, it's actually pretty amazing, because even nowadays there's some people that, well, they want wine by the liters when they buy it here, mainly local people, because they have this conception.
Yeah.
But the thing, and a lot of people go to the, well, wine cellar store, whatever, and they buy by the liters. But this is not a priorat, or at least not inside the designation of origin. The same thing happens with Monsanto. So we have this prestige nowadays, and the actual fight nowadays is to repopulate this area, and that letting young people work on the fields and work and have a job on this wine industry.
You are an example of it.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to say it. Actually, we said that right after the Spanish Civil War, a lot of people went from these villages of Priorat to Tarragona, for example, or Reus. Yeah. My grandmother went from a village here in Priorat to Tarragona. She married my grandfather, whatever. But nowadays, I came back to Priorat. I have my I'm living in her house, in her father's house. Nowadays, and I'm living here because of wine industry. So I'm a living example of this repopulation of Priorat. Yes. And this difficult history that we have, or at least recent history. The thing about Priorat as well is that I think it's like a phoenix, right? So everyone thought it was dead, and then it rose from the ashes, which is amazing, this history.
Yes,
we can we can continue.
Well, I think the was good, because the PowerPoint, I have good PowerPoint. I don't know why say here in your PC, but
maybe it's the format thing.
Yeah, maybe it's the format. Yes. Yeah, I think it's the format that what I was.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Don't worry.
We know what to say.
Yeah. So nowadays, so the price is still this level that allow to the young people to grow up. Quality tourism. Here we have to imagine is a good debate that we have today in the sector of the wine here in Priorat. How will be this region now from 10 years from today, no? And I say I'm from Italy, and I fall in love with this region. Why? Because it's still wild, rural. Is not converted himself in like attraction park or roller coaster experience for wine lover from around the world. No, we have a lot of we see a lot of region in Italy or France that is. I don't know how I say, but it still is built. It seems that it's building only for wine tourism. Here is not the situation. It is not the case. It's really rural, wild. In this village, we have a more tractor than car. We have no traffic lights. There is no traffic lights in all the region. And when you explain this, the people can believe, what mean no traffic light? Yeah, we don't have any traffic light.
It means we don't need them.
Yeah, exactly. This is the one focus nowadays. So this is another consequence of pure environment, no?
Yeah, so pure environment and slow living. Actually, you have to imagine that here mainly the thing, and what I think it's quite interesting, we have a quality tourism, as Dio said, like wine lovers that come from all around the world, but they want to explore this very small region. So we have people coming, as I said, from all around the world, but in a quite, I think that the mountains and the tricky roads and everything preserve this region from being like a mass product,
Exactly.
a mass tourism region. So it's quite slow living nowadays as well, and I think it will continue to be so.
Yes,
So
exactly. I remember the word that say a winemaker here that say that talking about this massification that here is not possible, and say a people that want to make wine here, he can't believe that make money here. If you want to come here and make with the idea of making money,
they're wrong.
You're wrong.
They're wrong.
It's simple. You came here for make wine and big wine, because the environment itself is a defense of this massification. Because if the land was flat, was really easy to put some more vineyard, etc. But with this mountain, it's really impossible. It's the environment is the natural barrier for the natural defense for the massification and from the industrialization of wine. Here.
Yes. So let's go to the next slide. So mainly I will introduce a little bit, and then Diego will go into detail. But mainly we have Priorat and Montsant. I think you cannot see much about Montsant, but as we said before, we have typical varieties, which would be in terms of red varieties, red Grenache and Carignan, and then white varieties, white Grenache and Macabeo. But then we have other varieties that are admitted that you can plant here and well make wine out of them, just like Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, Merlot, even Tempranillo, Chenin Blanc, Muscat, Chardonnay, etc., etc., etc. So we have a lot of possibilities, which is quite interesting as well. And then you can see the alcoholic volumes, minimum alcoholic volumes there as well. In Priorat, minimum 13.5 alcoholic volume for red wines. So as we said, it's
I never see a Priorat about 35. Is always
usually it's 14.5, 15%. So pretty harsh. Then the yield very low yield as well. 5,000 kilos per hectare in red wines. Okay, red grapes. With whites you can make a little bit more, but that's all. So pretty interesting.
Yes, we can see the difference with Montsant, no? Where we're talking about the soil, no? Before in Montsant you can see a production that is a little bit more. There's a little bit high yield. Why? For this reason. In Montsant we can find clay, sand, and other kind of material that can keep water, that can keep water and allow to you to have higher production. Liquoré, yes, late 95% in Priorat, the yield is obviously lower and smaller. About the variety, I like to make a comparison, because when we're talking about designation of origin around the world, I always give an example with my country, Italy. A designation of origin qualify not allow you to cultivate and grow up other varieties than different from the original. So when we're talking about Chianti, when we're talking about Barolo, is only 100% of the autochthone variety, original variety. Nebbiolo, Sangiovese, that's all. Burgundy is Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and that's all. No, we don't have a lot of space. No. Instead, here in Priorat, the winemaker have a lot of freedom to create with different kind of variety. Why? Is for the reason that we said before. The 5 pioneers, when arrive, plant different grapes, and the winery that follow them after follow the same strategy. For this reason, today the designation adapts his rules to the situation of all winery. And if we see this from a point of view of tradition, maybe we can match the land with one grape. But in the other hand, from another point of view, this gives a lot of freedom, and this gives a lot of wide range of different products. We can find a monovarietal of Priorat, we can find a Priorat wine, we can find a Priorat red, we can find a Priorat with a blend, we can find a Priorat only with Cabernet, only with Syrah, and this creates a really wide offer in the same region. In a smaller region like this, we can find a wine offer that is really wide and big.
And I have to say that this, I think it's pretty interesting as well, because you can find like this great 100% red Grenache wines or great 100% Carignan, but you can still find great 100% Syrah, for example, and still perceive the typical aromas of Priorat. So the typical aromas are minerality. So you can still feel, you can still perceive this minerality. So you can still understand
Especially
this as a Priorat, even if it's 100% Cabernet or Merlot or Syrah, it doesn't matter, because you can feel the earth in your nose. It's incredible. So you can see all these earthy notes. It's amazing. So as well, this thing allows small wineries to, well, be known, for example, for a wine. If you can just make wine with one variety, it's very difficult that
the small wineries
can compete with the big wineries. So I think it's a pretty democratic way of making wine here.
Yes.
So let's move forward.
Yes, because is a person that asked me about Priorat qualification. That is one of the last. What is the last? It was introduced really recently in a style of French style, more or less. No, what we say, we starting with the Priorat.
Different ranges of wines inside the designation of origin Priorat. So starting from the basic designation of origin Priorat, reflecting the generic wine growing personality and typicity of the designation of origin. Then we go to other stages.
Yes, village wine that identified the village. Every village is identified with a name, the name of the village, obviously, and this is the second step. Then the parages, that means the close. Okay, the single vineyard, okay, the single parage, the single.
Yeah, and let me stop you there, because I think I saw a question about what was the meaning of close. Close, it means a closed vineyard, actually.
Close.
So it's a small state.
It's a French. Yeah, the question was asked by Miss Sushma Rao. So it's means a closed wall vineyard. It's a French.
Yes, exactly. So it's like a single vineyard. Yes. So
then we have Vigna Classificata, okay, that means that
classified.
Yes, yeah. And Gran Vigna Classificata, that we are talking about historic and the older vineyard located in the same parage. So in the parage, then we can find a small part of this parage that is a Vigna Classificata and Gran Vigna Classificata, that is connected to their history and often is about the older varieties that we planted here and there.
So the last stages would be like a mix between the perfect spot and the history. So ancient vineyards as well, etc., etc. So it's pretty interesting as well, this classification.
So I think we arrived.
Yes. So I don't know if you have any doubts, if you have any questions, Kunal and Kitri, if you want to explain, everyone, if you want to
yes, before we go on to the questions, I just want to go back a little and explain to our audience quickly as to what actually happened with these 5 pioneers.
Sorry, we don't talk about a thing. When they start with a common project. Everyone which is close, which is vineyard, they produce wine. They vinificate in the same cellar, in the same winery, and then we start.
They split it apart.
They split it apart, and we produce everyone with its own label.
Their own label, their own winery. But at first they went. Well,
the question is not what happened with these 5, because this is the 5 that was survived, that going straight, because originally was 10 winemakers, but this 5 was
the only one the only ones that survived.
And because was managed to sell the wine at the price.
There was, I think all of them, obviously, René Barbier and Alvaro Palacoste, these people sort of stand out. And if I'm not wrong, all of them had viticultural background, and they were studying, or studying in University of Barcelona. And they used to come up they had heard about this place in the mountains where, nobody lived. And you're talking about in 80s, so they used to probably go, in your typical 1980s way of spending the weekend in the mountains, in the villages where nobody lives. And when they went up there, they found that there was wild Grenache still growing amongst in these villages. And then that's where, because they had this viticultural background, all of them decided, why not try something like this and see how and where this is the dream years, the golden years that PRIORAT went through in the late 80s, and now it's one of the favorite regions, one of the most revered wine regions in the world.
Yes. Yeah. So these people, some of them, they didn't know about wine itself, and a little bit, of course. But for example, Álvaro Palacios, he comes from a big family, big production family in Rioja, but he was the youngest son, and he was like the hippie one, and he decided to come to PRIORAT, and I think that he outran the family actually. So he won. It's incredible.
It's a wonderful story. I mean, wine is all about stories, but then this story is just one of its kind. I mean, the way that it was. Imagine, guys, the entire region being abandoned. I think there are 9 villages in PRIORAT or something like that, and all of those villages got abandoned. Nobody lived there for about half a century, and then it's a perfect example of wine being the lifeblood, literally, of a region, and then investment being poured, and now see where it stands.
And then, like Kunal, you said that, and in less than about 2000, they got the DOCA. And they prepared for it, about 20 years before that? That's late 80s, like they say. 50 years? And they beat, I wouldn't say beating. I wouldn't want people from Raj Basha or Ribera del Duero or Rioja suing me for saying it, but then 50 years. And
that's what I say. I mean, it's underdog, coming from the back of the race and then winning it so fast, and being one of the only 2 DOCA regions of Spain. It's incredible.
Yeah. We imagine what we talked about before. Imagine a land that was known for only for make bulk production, cooperative production, cheap wine, that people coming here with 5 little barrels and coming back to a home full of wine with $2 for a 5 liters or something like this. And then it was a revolution. Was a revolution. I saw a documentary about this, and was curious. Was a farmer that explained a little history, that when they arrived starting a project to make quality wine, they selected the wine. They selected the grape in the vineyard. The grape that
they didn't use all the grapes.
Exactly.
So they put some grapes apart,
away.
and just a small percentage of the grapes were good for making the wine.
And this is a thing that the farmer before can't imagine. Why you throw away the grape? Now they put all together and vinify. Imagine a complete revolution in this way.
So we've got few questions.
Sure.
Yes, sure.
Yes, we're open for questions, guys. Please shoot.
We've got one question from Chana Lolo. Is the DO PRIORAT Consejo Regulador allowing to plant new vineyards?
Yeah, it's tricky. You have to have a right for planting vineyard. So you can plant new vineyard, but you have to have like a license. Yeah, and they don't give out new licenses. I think that maybe if you're young and you can ask for one, but I think that you have to buy it from someone that already has it, and then this someone cannot plant again. So it's quite difficult. What else? I think that
okay, so our next question, we've got another question. I think that's already been answered by you both in that very interesting chart. What is the color of the PRIORAT wine and what is the percentage of alcohol content in it? It's safe to say about 13.5 for reds, about 13.
But it's the minimum. This is the minimum. 30.5 is the minimum that the designation demand. This is the minimum, but we never find 13.5. Is always more. 14.5, 15. So for the reason, for this percentage of alcohol, why the region was known for make bad wines before? Why? Because was wine that they produce with this degree of alcohol, 50%. Don't do any aging, in barrel, in bottle, and the day after was selling a barrel of 5 liter, and they started drinking. Was obviously a bad wine. A wine with this percentage of alcohol need to rest, need to make aging. This is
it's so intense that the day after it's just crazy. You have to let it settle, let it rest in oak barrel or whatever, then in your barrel. So actually the good vintages here in
2010 now a vintage that is good, that is balanced, that is
it depends on the aging and everything, but you can
with a middle of perception of alcohol, not high alcohol, is about the 2010, 2011, 2012. A good year of PRIORAT, because they need time to balance it, they need time to equilibrate.
Slow wines
exactly.
As well.
About color, the color is depending on the variety, because how we said, we can find a lot of variety here. A typical PRIORAT is about a blend. The color is a ruby intense color going to garnet color to the next year, more or less, but it's really intense and deep. The Carignan
is very deep.
Carignan is deeper, more or less. Imagine that really deep. The Grenache is more brilliant. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit red, but often these two variety sharing is made in blend.
So they are blended. Yes.
Great. So we've got Keith with us, and I think he's got questions. And
I do. I have.
He's a very technical man. We all look up to his knowledge on wines. So all the best to you.
We're very fortunate to have been to PRIORAT and experience it in person, and it is a very special place. My questions are kind of geared towards the vineyard and a bit of the economy of the wine in PRIORAT. From what I could, I wanted to get an idea on yields in ton, and I think from what you were saying, it's about 5,000 kilo per hectare, so that's about 5.5 ton per hectare yield.
Yeah.
And is that in the 20 to 30-year-old vineyards? What about the Centurion vines, the 100-year-old vines? What sort of yield are you seeing in that?
Actually, the thing, this is the maximum you can get.
The maximum you can.
So even if it's a 10-year-old vineyard or a 100-year-old, it doesn't matter. You cannot make more.
More than this. This is the maximum. Yes, the yield is about the maximum.
But with the old vineyards, it's incredible because you have to imagine that, well, they have to root a lot, so they start rooting and they focus mainly on that. And the yield, I don't know per.
We're talking with a farmer in Porrera that have a 90 years old of Carignan.
Yes.
That in the better situation, in the better year, produce 300 grams
per plant.
So what is that ton per hectare?
300 per, depending on the plant that you have, but I don't. The planting that you have in the hectare, but 300 grams for plant is really they need 2 or 3 plants for make a bottle. Imagine this.
So 300 grams is the
4 plants,
90-year-old vines. So how many what is the yield per vine in a, say, a 20, 30-year-old vine?
It
So
depends
by percentage.
on the place and on the place mainly, because well, but it's more or less about a kilo per plant in Priorat region. So in slate soil.
Okay. So we're looking at about 30% then. So it's about 30%.
Yeah,
more or less. Yes.
Of the yield. Okay.
Yes.
So then, we're at about 1.5 ton per hectare.
Yes, more or less, or less, even less, I think.
Okay. But you think at least 1 ton per hectare?
More or less, yeah, because you might imagine that the designation of origin put the maximum that you can find for not past the maximum, but there are really a lot of winery that's even arrive at this point, never arrive. A year like the last, with the mildew problem that we had, with the plague problem that we had, the yield was very low.
Actually, these winemakers that we were telling you about with these old vineyards in Porrera, they just produce about 2,000 bottles, maybe 2,200 bottles a year. But this year they only harvested about 190 kilos. So they don't even have to fill a barrel. So that's a disgrace. Actually, they won't have 2020 vintage, for example. So the thing here is that it's heroic, and not only because of the amount of hours you have to spend in the vineyard or the difficulty of the area, but still because even with all these hours invested in this, you can see yourself with practically nothing. And it's devastating, actually. I don't know, we love them so much. They opened their doors to us, and
they have a fantastic Carignan,
and they have a fantastic 100% Carignan in a 3 Michelin star, only 300 bottles production, and it's, for me, it's pretty cheap. But well, anyways, the thing is,
issue,
it's a family thing. So the yields are very small. Yeah, you have even some century-old, 100 years old vineyards that they don't get to produce 200 grams per plant. It depends. It's quite difficult. But the thing about the old vineyards, which is a very good thing to have here, is that the complexity is incredible. The best wines are actually made from these oldest vineyards. So they like to keep these old vineyards in order to make the great wines and the top range wines, and then they maybe plant new
obviously it's a strategy that has sense here in Priorat, because it's mainly focused on bodied and full bodied red wine. Obviously, if we are in a region that we have to produce sparkling wines or white wines,
it's completely different.
It's completely no sense have old vineyard. We need to after 25, 30 years old, plant new vineyard, because we have to make different kind of wine. But with that kind of wine, a typical full-bodied and that's characteristic. Old vineyards have sense nowadays, even if with this low yield.
Yeah. The so in the economy of wine in PRIORAT, would you say that it's the winemakers are typically owning their own vineyards, or there's a lot of leasing vineyard or buying of grapes?
Yeah, mainly the thing is that nowadays mainly each winery owns their own vineyards, but still there are some people that just work on the vineyards and then sell the grapes. But as you have to imagine PRIORAT still as a region where a lot of
cooperative wine is still alive, and the cooperative is still alive and still work.
So a lot of people that don't have their own winery, but they have vineyards because their ancestors did or whatever, they sell these grapes mainly to cooperatives. There are some wineries that buy grapes as well, and lots of them, but mainly it's a small, it's a small, it's a small share. So you have to, the families that don't have their own winery mainly sell to cooperatives.
Yeah. So I know there was a sort of a rabid investment going on in PRIORAT after it sort of became famous, and there was, you know, big prices being paid for vineyards and a lot of investment going in. I believe that's sort of softened out a bit now. Is it sort of that extreme investment is sort of less now and it's getting a little more realistic?
Yes, you have to understand that PRIORAT was a hot region in late 90s when all these 95 point Parkers or whatever were gave, and even up to the economic crisis, the world economic crisis, there were some investors from all around the world that came here and whatever. But nowadays, it's as you said, it has softened. Not only because of the crisis, but because a lot of people saw that investing here was not a safe investment.
Yes, I saw that you said before that people
I think
can arrive here and
wineries
imagine to make money here in PRIORAT. No, here we to make wine.
There are some, for example, the Torres family. I guess you know about them. They're one of the 15 families. They have a winery here where they produce a top range wine, but it's more about the prestige it gives
not
than the money you make out of it. It's quite difficult to focus on making great money here.
Yeah. And what is the availability of, like, let's say someone wants to come and buy vineyards there, are there vineyards to be purchased? And pricing, I'd sort of heard like a good 20, 30-year-old vineyard of Garnache.
Yeah, 20,000 for 20,000 for an hectare, yeah. With
20,000 euro.
20, yes,
more
exactly. With planted, already planted.
But it's quite difficult to find someone because, well, you can find maybe someone maybe a little bit more in Montsant than in PRIORAT because everyone wants to be in PRIORAT. But now some people more maybe in this northern part of Montsant, which is a little bit fresher and with higher contrast and whatever, produces a very typical, very quite good wines. So we have lots of investors from, I don't know, from the Cava region, but even from outside Catalonia and Spain that come here and see, because they try to buy a vineyard in order to make their own winery here and just, well, see how it turns out.
Yeah. And if someone is purchasing, let's say purchasing grapes from existing producers, from what I got from you, it's about 2,000 euro per ton, or it was about $2 that you mentioned per liter.
Yeah, it depends. The price is marked by cooperatives mainly at first, and then if you are if you work in the field but you don't have your own winery, you can sell it to some wineries, and even at some point we've heard of some people that sold the very good grapes, of course, for even 3.5 euros a kilo at some point, which is quite a lot. Of course, it's
Depending of the
small amount of grapes, not a lot of kilos, but very good grapes. But if you go to the cooperatives in Priorat, it's about 2 euros a kilo usually. So I guess it changes. In Monsanto, it's about 1.40,
1.1, 1.40 in this range.
yeah, it depends on the place, but yeah, more or less is this.
And then a final question, north-facing vineyard versus south-facing vineyard in Priorat.
Well, commonly it is said that the northern facing vineyard is better. Why? Because of this slow ripening. So temperatures here during the day are very high. We can get to even 40, 41, 42, 43 degrees at some point, some days. So it's better because still the ambience is very warm, but they say that the north facing what we call here Ubaga, the Ubaguetas, Ubaga, is the best orientation. But I guess it depends on the wine you want to make.
Yeah, there is a producer here in Gratallops that they described because made two wine. That one is called Face North and one is called Face South, of the same variety of the same Grenache, and it's telling that in the south face, the harvest was 10 days before, and in the other, the same mountain, the south face was 10 days before the harvest, and in the other face, in the other side, 10 years later. The same grape, the same variety, the same soil. Okay, and also when you fill in the glass, one is higher in alcohol, higher in body, full body, and the other is obviously relative to the zone, relative in a Priorat.
It's a strong wine as well, but it's a little bit more subtle. It's very, it's this finesse, you know, about this. It's interesting. Actually, the thing here, we always heard that the best is this northern
part, but the thing that we have here that save us a little bit from this climate changing and all these things that we heard today nowadays is that we say yes, you know, Mediterranean latitude, so it's hot, but we stay a little bit higher. Priorat is around more or less 500 meters up to 700 meters, 700. So this is a save for all this climate change and all this climate discussed, because we have a little bit of defense from this point of view. Yes.
Yeah. So the benefit would be then higher vineyard, and then north facing vineyards would be preferred in Priorat.
Depend. Yes. At this moment nowadays, also the south face is good. Obviously, that the wine will be different.
Yeah,
I don't talk about this better or worse. Will be a different wine with different characteristics. Will be higher in alcohol. Will be higher in fuller bodied. Will be different.
But thinking long term with the the increase of global warming, then north facing vineyards would be
exactly
a better bet.
High altitude.
High north facing plus the north the facing the altitude.
Great, super. Thank you very much. I've learned a lot from you guys.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you too. Thank you too. My pleasure. Well, our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi.
Yeah,
Hi.
go ahead.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you so much. Sushma, just hold on. I'll just take a couple more questions and I'll come back to you.
Sure.
So, question from Riti is: what is the current state of Priorat? Did COVID make any effect on it?
Did what?
COVID. Corona.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, yeah, a lot.
It was a green island here.
Well, you have to imagine. Yeah, of course. About COVID here, it's like a small region, and it's been closed for several days. So I think that things are getting better here, but still, we have to imagine the economic issue here. It's that mainly this area sells wines to restaurants, not to supermarkets, but to restaurants which are closed or have closed nowadays, and exploitation, and all the world is, if you
Was
excuse
really
the language,
Yeah.
screwed. So it's difficult nowadays. But
Yeah.
this combined with the 2020 vintage that was a difficult vintage as well. Well, we'll see how things work out here, but the bad thing is that we're looking that at some wineries, they may have to close because it's been over a year. Well, it's going to be over a year, and some of them haven't even, well, had any money, any selling. So
yes, this is with
the COVID effects here are mainly economic, because as well we have
COVID plus I think the 2020 vintage in PRIORAT was also a questionable one. So
but this was a
I
lucky for the stock. This was a lucky for the stock. Eh? Yes, this is true, because if you don't have the stock, we got a problem with COVID. More in Penedès than PRIORAT was the tank. Then the deposit was full because the summer was off, without tourism and without, and they don't know where put the 2020 vintage. So for this reason, the COVID, the year,
Well,
yeah, from a point of view of stock, was
everything happened.
Yes.
So this
Yes.
2020, it's just strange.
Yeah, 2020 was a rough year. All right, the next question we have is what is the biggest challenge of viticulture in such a tough region like PRIORAT? I think that's guys, please answer that question.
Well, I think that the main thing is that you have to invest a lot of hours in the vineyard, and nowadays, well, as we said, these guys from Torroja, for example, this village is very small village called Torroja. They work like one person per hectare. So one per hectare. It's amazing. And with climbing materials, with you have to see if the newly planted vine actually roots, actually stays, or if it doesn't. So it's a constant, I don't know, it's quite a
It's a
headache,
constant
I
challenge.
think.
Yeah. The challenge, I think, is follow for the quality, because we say this is not a region that can produce kilos and kilos and kilos. So if you have to follow, you are obligated to follow with the quality.
Yeah,
because it's only is not good to say, but it's not nice to say, but it's the price that save you. If you start and produce cheaper wine, you can survive here. If you have a plant that gives you 260 grams of grape, the price have to be high. So you have to be a good seller to convince the market that nowadays it's not easy. Pay for this price, but this is the challenge.
The challenge, and of course the terroir itself is such that it's such a unforgiving land. It's so barren. It's the soil. I mean, as you said, it doesn't have any organic matter at all, and so everything combined makes viticulture a challenge in PRIORAT. Right. Again, another question.
There's just one thing that I wanted to add, that I think that we didn't say it, but you have to understand that it's, maybe this will help you understand about how difficult it is to make wine here. Everything is handpicked, so we do not have any machine working on the fields. So every grape is handpicked during the harvest, because the well, you've seen the places where the vineyards are, so it's very difficult to even conceive this. You have to come and you have to visit the area in order to understand how difficult it is. Go ahead. Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt
no
you.
problems. So another question, Sushma, do you want to go ahead,
Yeah.
please, and then I'll take the rest of the questions. Please
Hi,
unmute yourself.
yeah.
No.
Hi, I don't know your names because I missed the initial part of the webinar.
Albert, and Diego.
Hi, Albert and
Hello,
Diego.
Sushma.
Okay, I had three questions. I will club all of them and pose it, and you can answer it in parts.
Yeah.
One is, I see that the terroir is very different, and it's not the usual limestone kind. How does the water reach the roots? The second thing is it all the groundwater itself? And the thing, are you doing organic farming, organic wines too?
Okay, so beginning from the last one, yeah, there are a lot of producers that are producing organic wines here, and actually, it's a pretty good place to do so because the thing, as it is so difficult to do anything here, the viticulture, it's already directioned to organic, so it's not very difficult to change from conventional to organic wines here. Of course, some years like this one, the 2020 vintage was a disaster for organic producers mainly, but still, I think it's a quite a good place to do so. Um, the first one about the roots getting the water, you have to imagine that here we have very dry summers and pretty rainy springs, which is the rainy season. And when this water gets to the first layer of this licorella, of this slate, it gets filtered and stays in this in the bottom layers, maybe in like small I don't know, holes in inside these rocks. So the roots go to these places and they stay there and suck all this water from these small pretty hollow uh, holes.
Let me stop you one moment. When, obviously, we don't say it, but obviously, when you plant a new vineyard, the first 3-4 years you need to put water, right? Because
you have to water.
You have to water the first 3-4 years
because the roots aren't long enough.
Then they go along. But the first 3-4 years when you plant a new vineyard, you need to irrigate it.
Yeah, so at first you have to water it, but then the roots, it's like they look for water. And actually the vineyards here are, the vine plants are pretty small, but the roots are very deep. So the thing here is that we have a big I don't know, a high concentration of vine plants here, and they are focused on going vertically down, so they have to root vertically.
Another thing that a lot of people is curious now when coming here and visit the PRIORAT and asking why you don't irrigate. You can irrigate, you can put water, and you have more production. You have, yes, could be true, but no, because we are looking for this.
Yeah, we're looking for quality.
This is the strategy of production that we are looking for. These are natural issues. These are natural things, but we accept it because we are looking for this. Obviously, I make the comparison with Penedès, where they produce sparkling, not because I don't like. I love sparkling wine. I love Penedès, but because it's a completely another strategy of production. You make a sparkling wine, so you need water because you need a bigger grape, because you need to make a sparkling wine after. Here, I said before, for the kind of wine that we produce, we are looking for exactly this, that the grape could be smaller possible because we want more sugar and less water. This is so for this reason.
And in order to feel everything mineral. Yeah. And which was the second question?
Organic one that you answered to.
No, that was the third one. Well, I don't know, but
No, he's. I think you've answered all the
Yeah,
questions.
you
Okay,
have.
okay, okay.
You have. Thank you.
Without
Okay,
problems.
so another question. I think I already know the answer to. So the water source in PRIORAT is just the normal rainfall, right? There's no
Yeah.
lake, so this
No.
rainfall. Okay.
Well, we have a couple lakes, but they are not full.
They're not the water source. Yeah.
Just one last bit of question, because there are certain vineyards across Europe. Like I am partnered with a vineyard in Slovenia.
Mhm.
So I'm just asking you this question. They are coming up with this new, because the year was very bad for everybody, but they are looking for people to invest in vineyards to, make it as a, partnership basis. Are people from your area also looking at the same?
Into partnership in which
Like as
sense?
an investment? Like if somebody wants to invest in your vineyard as a part of, as a
So
part.
yeah, Shushma, I think what they had just mentioned. So a hectare of an acre or a hectare, I'm not sure, is
Hectare.
20,000 euros. 20,000 euros
Yeah, more or
per
less.
hectare. That's the cost, right?
Yeah, but if yes, that's more or less the price. But if you refer to wineries here looking for partners like investor partners or whatever, I think that maybe this year would be a good year.
Yeah,
For
that's what is happening. Yes, yes,
Uh,
that's
th-
what I'm thinking of. Yes.
yes,
yeah,
that's
because
very
there are
interesting. Mm.
as I told you before, there may be some wineries that will probably have to close. So that's what we are facing. And the first number that comes to mind, maybe from 5 to 10 to even 15 wineries in both Priorat and Monsanto that may close. So I guess
So,
that now
so
it's
I
a
would be getting
it's a
in
good
touch
time.
with Mr. Kunal to connect with you for some details on the same. Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you.
So another question is from Dipto, which is the best food item that goes well with PRIORAT? So that actually depends on what kind of wine it is, whether it's a white
Yes.
or a red.
Yes, so
Um,
this is no for a red wine. This is a line no for a red wine, full bodied wine. So I can go with a red meat, this kind of food,
Yeah,
cured cheese, dry, really dry
dry
cheese,
cured.
dry and cured cheese, red meat like I don't know, like a basil or some red meat.
Even
in general, red meat.
even hunting meat, like
Yes,
like boar
exactly,
or
wild
deer.
hunting
boar,
meat. A
wild boar.
food that could be really, I don't know how.
You know, the ones which are
unctuous.
high in protein, high in umami, high in
Yes,
because these wines are really full of tannins, high in alcohol, so they need something chewy. They need
to
something which have
to
a
dry,
bit of a texture to it, which have a
yes,
bit
it
of a
needs
bite
something
to it.
exactly. This is
So
exactly, yes.
so basically imagine big wines going with big foods. So that's the kind of food
Yes.
that would generally go with it.
And
Does
I can add the local wines are created for going with local foods. So this is
yes,
this
yes,
is
yes,
a
Yeah.
hunting
yes.
hunting land. There are a lot of hunting.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot of wild animal here, and
yes, I'm sure.
Yes.
Does PRIORAT, is there any DO for fortified wines? No, over there.
yes, yeah, means, they call it here Rancy wines.
Okay.
There is a more or less the same production of Porto wine, fortified wines. Okay, so
Right.
after
Okay.
yes, after we leave a residual sugar after fermentation, and then they adding alcohol and keeping in the barrel for several years. Yeah.
And this is a quite interesting issue because this is one of these things that it's not a very commercial
No, but
wine
it's
here.
really
But
Local,
familiar. It's
look,
yeah, it's like a very
just for
family.
local consumption.
So
yeah.
some families have small barrels from over 100 years old with this.
Just for family consumption, for
Yes,
special
yes,
occasions, for
yes,
parties and birthdays and anniversaries and stuff like that. Yeah.
and you can taste some amazing wines there.
in the
but
in the
just
private house,
yeah,
in a private, in the
in family
yeah,
houses,
Private cellars.
yeah,
even not
not commercial,
wineries,
yeah,
not commercial wineries.
Yeah.
So this is a quite interesting thing that maybe someday we will have to work on it, because maybe a tour here would be from house to house, so family to
Yeah.
family, not only wineries but
yeah,
families.
exactly.
Because here you have to
Absolutely.
understand that a lot of families produce their own wine. For example, Diego with the family of Maria, his bride to be.
Oh,
They make
congratulations.
yeah, they make about 800 bottles
More
a
or
year,
less,
more or
yeah,
less, and they make pretty good wines. But especially the sweet wine and the
Yeah,
ranci,
yeah,
they're amazing,
yeah.
mind blowing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's incredible.
All right. I think we are done with questions here. Let me just have a look once more.
Sure.
Um, I think we've covered pretty much everything. Does anybody have any questions? Please do put it in the chat box so we can take a question. We are just entering almost 2 hours of this long webinar. Okay, so no questions. Right. Right. Well, thank you, first of all, both of you, for sparing out so much time for us and for the audience. We are really, really thankful for taking out such a long, from your busy schedule and giving us the time and making us familiar with this wonderful, wonderful region that I personally am love it. I mean, that's why I wanted to do this for such a long time. I would pass it on to Mr. Ravi Sharma, who would just give a word of thanks. And Mr. Sharma, please go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good evening,
Good evening.
Diego and Albert. It's a pleasure. Excellent, expressive, and exclusive coverage. Really, as the title speaks about, is PRIORAT Explain. And you put down from the historical background, talking about the monastical approach from their Renaissance, as Kunal has put down over there. Chrissy has also added up over there. And the good fraternity who are listening to you has really gained out of this particular session very good notes. Because when we are talking about Grenache, when we are talking about red, we are talking about white. While there's a comparison with the French Rhone Valley, while we are also talking about the comparison with the new approaches of the pioneers who have started changing new viticulture by bringing the more variety of the grapes growing into that region, opening up. And that's a good learning. Good questions you have answered just now, all about the pebbles, about the slate, about the geographical conditions of the PRIORAT regions, which have been very difficult for people to think if there is something can be. And when you have talked about it, what is the benefit of it? Madam Sushma's question, talking about organic, again, you have covered up in a very beautiful manner, talking about that how difficult it is to get in a water too high up, difficult rough stones, especially when it is covered with a different soil, which is not an easy soil in what you have in France, or you have it in Italy, or you have it in all other areas of Portugal, or even in Spain. So this is in a good learning. I think all the fraternity all around must have taken a good notes of it. Me too. I've taken lots of notes of it, and that has given very good knowledge. And we look forward. This is not the first. We will look forward for more of your sessions to come up. And thanks to Kunal, and great expectation with the Kriti adding up over there and putting all the things so good. So thank you again for both of you and bringing us the good knowledge. And we want to have more and more sessions with you. And I hope you will be taking up the special time for our learners, especially all those who are new freshers and those who are some from the industry, they want to know about it. I would like to personally thank on behalf of Grape Expectations. My name is Ravi Sharma. I'm also as a part of the Mr. Kunal's team, who is looking forward for such sessions. It's the third session in a row, and I am mesmerized. I am actually gained lots of knowledge. Thank you very much. From my bottom of my heart, thank you again for Diego and Albert. Thanks again for both of you. Thank you, Kunal.
Thanks you. Thanks, Kunal.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you all.
Sharma.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
Mr. Sharma.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. It's been
A pleasure.
Albert and
Yes, we really a pleasure talking about PRIORAT. It's a honor, and how we can say it was a really pleasure. It was fun for us.
it was great. It was
I'm really
exactly
happy to
even
do
more
that.
than it was even more than what I expected. It was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for taking out the time and helping us decipher this very, very, very unique region, very close to my heart. And I, will be definitely visiting. Well, the plan was to visit in 2020, but nothing happened in 2020,
Yeah.
and I'll be definitely visiting in 2021 or 2022, and will come and see you guys for sure.
Okay. Thank you
If
so
you
much.
ever
We
visit
will be
India,
waiting
please
for
do
you.
come and see us.
So yeah, I will
Okay.
be more than
All right.
pleased to do so.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much, guys.
Namaste.
Thank you so much. Namaste. Namaste. I will be sharing the video with you so you can have a look at it as well.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Fantastic.
much.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, and have a good
Bye-bye.
night.